So I'm going to go ahead and record this, and then there we go. Does that look better, Maria?
That looks great.
Well, welcome everybody. We're glad you're here. My name is Paul Worthman. I'm the Associate Director of the Experiential Learning Center, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Maria Luna from ISSS, who's our subject matter expert when it comes to all things related to CPT. So today we're going to go through the steps in the CPT process, CPT eligibility and guidelines, along with some deadlines for the upcoming spring and summer semesters for y'all. And then Maria will talk about CPT options, looking ahead. We'll give you some information on how to connect with our offices. And we'll have time for questions at the end. I think since we're recording this, Maria, we'll just go through the presentation, record it. Then when we get to the end, I'll stop the recording and we can take the questions at that point. Does that seem reasonable?
That sounds good.
Okay, that's what we'll do. So if you have questions, either hold them to the end or feel free to put them in the chat, and then we'll get to those once the presentation is over with. All right. So step one, the CPT process. There are 2 workshops that are mandatory for all the international students to complete before they get CPT. And our recommendation is do them as soon as you can to get them out of the way. You only need to do each of them once. There's an ELC internship workshop. That's our office. And there's also a ISSS work clinic around CPT as well. Both of them are Canvas courses. Both of them are free. You can do them at your convenience. And as a bonus tonight, we're going to really cover all the main points for internships. So toward the end, I'll ask those of you that want us to update your Handshake account to show that you attended the internship workshop. All I'll need is your email address in the chat, and then we'll be able to get that updated for you. So that's a little bonus for attending tonight's session. All right. So once you've done the workshops, then the next step is really to move forward to find an internship or a position related to your major. And that's really an important point. And we'll probably emphasize it a couple of times. In order for a position or an internship to qualify for CPT, it must be related to your major or your minor or your certificate program at CU Denver. Now that said, our office, Experiential Learning Center, is here to help you with all aspects of searching and applying for internships. Comes down to where to search, resume, cover letter, interviewing prep, everything related to searching for positions. Our office is here to help you with. Now, once you're offered and accept a position, these are the steps moving forward. They may vary slightly based on your academic program, but in general, these steps are constant across all academic programs. Once you're offered and accept a position for CPT, you want to get an offer letter from your employer. Once you get your offer letter from the employer, email that to your internship advisor in the ELC. They will reach back out with detailed next steps for you. And generally, those steps are going to involve then reporting your position in Handshake. And after you report it in Handshake, you fill out an online form. You'll meet with your internship advisor to go over everything, to make sure we have all the information we need. It lines up appropriately. They'll go over information related to your internship course as well that you need to know. And then they'll start the approval process. Once your internship or position is fully approved, and positions need at minimum 2 approvals, they need your supervisor at the internship, and they need your faculty sponsor. Once it's approved, then we move forward with both the enrollment process, so you can enroll in the internship course to receive academic credit for it, and we'll move forward with the process to get you an updated I-20 from ISSS. Once you've enrolled in the internship course and, most importantly, received your I-20 from ISSS, at that point, you can start working in your new position. So that's your basic process. So what does it take to be eligible in order to do CPT as an international student? Number one, you need to be here on an F1 visa. Okay. You're a continuing student. You haven't graduated yet. CPT, curricular practical training, as Maria will get into in more detail here in a bit, is your work authorization while you're a student at the university. Once you graduate, you move to a different status. We have a whole separate workshop set up for that coming up here in a few weeks. You need to have been at the university at least one academic year, at least 2 semesters, before you're eligible for CPT. You must be in good academic standing as defined by your school or college. And the internship or employment must be an integral part of your academic program. This bullet Maria will get into in much more detail here shortly. All right, so guidelines and requirements. Students must receive academic credit with CPT. Academic credit is tied to CPT. There is not an option to not get academic credit and get CPT. Now, that said, I work with a lot of students that enroll in one academic credit because they don't need more than that. They fulfilled all their elective requirements or degree requirements for academic credit, and they just need the credit in order to work under CPT. They do that to minimize their tuition cost. But please be aware, you must receive academic credit with CPT. And the way you receive that academic credit is you enroll in the internship course related to your major in order to get that academic credit. And because you enroll in an internship course, that's why our office is involved, the Experiential Learning Center. That's what we do as internships. Again, the position must be related to your major or field of study at CU Denver in order to be eligible for both academic credit and CPT. CPT must be obtained or renewed every semester. Work with a lot of students who have multi-semester positions. And so we go through the same reporting and approval and CPT and internship course enrollment process each semester. The number of credits you enroll in each semester can vary from one semester to another. Ultimately, those are tied to how many hours you're working. But just be aware of that CPT is renewed each and every semester. There are CPT deadlines each semester. They vary a little bit by school or college. You check with your internship advisor for your program to get those deadlines. And I've got a slide coming up that really gets into those deadlines for the next 2 upcoming academic semesters. Excuse me, critical important point that you need to be aware of. Please allow up to 3 weeks from the time you report your internship, get your offer, send it to your internship advisor, report it, go through the approval process to receive your updated I-20 from ISSS. 3 weeks. This is critical, you guys. I work with a lot of students who they get an offer from an employer on Thursday to start the following Monday. It's not going to happen. So as you're speaking with employers, please let them know this. If they want to hire you, great. But it takes up to 3 weeks to get through the process here before you can start working. So address that on the front end with them rather than waiting till the last minute and disclose it at the end, because I've seen students lose positions, lose offers because they weren't upfront and honest with employers. So please keep that in mind. That's an important point. All right, let's talk about deadlines. Keep it in mind, this 3-week timeline. So I've got 2 deadline scenarios. One is for those programs that require students to be enrolled in their internship course by census date. Okay, College of Engineering, Design, and Computing is one of those programs. So what that means is for the upcoming spring 2024 semester, the latest you need to have an offer letter from an employer in hand is January 24th, because you need to be enrolled in the course no later than January 31st, which is census date. It takes about a week to go through the approval process, reporting and approval process for your internship. So if you get your offer letter on the 24th and get moving, you should be able to enroll by the 31st. Once you're enrolled in the 31st, at that time, that's when we start the CPT process with ISSS, and it takes them up to 2 weeks to generate an I-20 for you, which means about the soonest you'll be able to start working for spring semester under that scenario, or the latest you can, would be February 14th. Okay. Summer's a little different scenario because it's such a short semester. But doing the math, you really need to have an offer letter in hand no later than May 24th. May 31st isn't census date, but the latest you can start working for summer semester is June 14th in order to meet the 6-week minimum requirement for internships and academic credit. So in order to hit that June 14th, you need to really be enrolled in your internship course by May 31st, so we can start the CPT process with ISSS. Okay. Some programs like the business school allow students to enroll as late as they possibly can to meet the minimum week requirement. The minimum weeks for fall and spring semester that students need to work in order to qualify for academic credit and CPT is 10 weeks. Summer semester is 6 weeks. So given that scenario, for the spring 2024 semester coming up, you need to have an offer letter in hand no later than February 9th. Because the latest date you can start working and meet the 10-week minimum is March 1st. In order to do that, you need to enroll. We need to start the CPT process with ISSS no later than February 16th. So that's where the February 9th date comes from to have your offer letter. In the scenario for summer is really the same as for engineering above, since it's such a tight turnaround. Okay. That said, you can start reporting your spring semester internships in Handshake beginning November 1st. And for summer, we'll open up summer internship reporting in Handshake beginning the 1st of April. Okay, that was a lot of information, I know. And this is where I turn the ball over to Maria, because I'm sure you're sick of me talking at this point, and we'll let Maria get into the details of CPT for you.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, everyone. Maria Luna, some of you already know me. I work in the ISSS office, and I'm gonna go down this road with Paul and go dive into the policies of this. So CPT is defined to be alternative work study, internship, cooperative education, or any other type of required internship or practicum that is offered by sponsoring employees through a cooperative agreement. The cooperative agreement is important here because that's where the ELC comes in, right? So the ELC represents the university and they cooperate with those companies. So Students and Exchange Visitor Program has stated in practical terms, integral part of an established curriculum means an opportunity must be required by the curriculum, or if not required, that the student must receive credit for the internship. So this is, again, you have to register for a course. So it's either required by your program, it's already built in your program, or you're gonna register for additional credits. But it always has to be related to what you're studying. International Student and Scholar Services interprets an integral part of established curriculum as it is related to the major and bound to the curriculum through cooperative agreements between the university and the employer. So again, that's why the ELC works with you to establish that relationship with the employer. Unpaid internship would also fall under the umbrella of curricular practical training. So internships can be paid or unpaid. I know you all want to get paid, but just if you're looking for opportunities, don't close the door on something that's unpaid. I know that's your first choice, but know that you can. So one of the followings are specific options students can gain approval for CPT. The information and examples below are not meant to cover every possible scenario which CPT could be approved. Rather, it is meant to serve as a general guidance. So we're going to go through several slides of how you could get CPT approval through the ELC and beyond. If you have a situation that falls outside of the information below or are unsure, if it's necessary for you to participate in CPT, please come and talk to us. Please make an appointment. Remember, we have walk-ins as well. But if you have any doubts, anytime you're working outside of campus, you want to have approval, you do not want to go out there on your own without being authorized for work, okay? So this is option 1. I feel like I'm reading a lot of the slides, so I might ask one of you to volunteer and read the examples. Make sure you're all awake. So CPT option 1 here is practical training experience is required for a student's degree. Practical training experiences or employment is required for the degree completion. The second part here on the explanation is required for the degree means the requirement must be documented as such in an official university publication or catalog. And then enrollment in credit is not necessarily required because the requirement is part of the student's official program requirements, not necessarily course completion. But on the second point here, some of your degrees, some of you are in a degree that's already built in, right? You know that you have to complete an internship in your last year, maybe your last semester. So there's not a secret. It's part of your curriculum. You know that you have to get to that point. And so that's what we're talking about. This is very clear. It's written in your degree progression, and you know that you have to get to this point. Here are 2 examples. Would anyone like to volunteer to read one of them? Be brave. Make sure you're awake. No takers, Paul. I'll give you a minute to read 1 and then I'll read 2. Okay, so I'll read example 2 here. A student's degree program requires all students gain practical experience through part-time employment in their field of study in the metro area. This requirement is listed in the program requirements as cited on the university website for students in this major. So think about education students, right? They know they have to go do some sort of practical out there in the world. Let's move on to the second option. So this is option 2. Practical training experience is required to earn internship, practicum, independent study credit for which a student will be registered. So, and the explanation here, internships, practicum, independent study credit is specifically linked to a student's academic department or school. For example, computer science. Another would be business. Enrollment in credit is required and may or may not be counted towards the degree requirements. So here, some programs already have built in the internship, some others don't, and that's where it may be counted or it may not be counted, because you may be able to turn an elective course into an internship course or not, depending on your degree. There are 2 examples here. I'll read the first one. A student's degree program requires participation in a paid or unpaid internship in a final semester in the company or organization off campus, directly related to the student's field of study. The academic department has internship course credit and will count this toward the student total degree requirements. And I'll give you a few seconds to read the second one here. All right, we can go to the next one. So So this is option 3. Practical training experience will provide research that is necessary for a student's thesis or dissertation. So this often applies to PhD students. Students enroll in thesis or dissertation credit might be eligible to be approved for CPT in connection with this credit if the off-campus work is directly related to the research goal objectives. It's important if you are a PhD student seeking CPT that you know that enrollment in thesis or dissertation credit alone does not automatically mean that a student would be approved for CPT. You're included. So yeah, just be cautious. If you're a PhD student, that not just being on thesis, you also need to enroll and get approved for CPT. And then the example here is a student enroll in dissertation credit and is working on research necessary for the completion of the dissertation that can be completed through outside employment in a student's field of study. The employment at the company specifically connects to the student's dissertation. It is not simply related to the general field of study. Where I've seen this happen is, for example, the Colorado School of Public Health, those students have to go do some research. And so they'll go to a specific site to do, to dive into the research data or research cases. And so I've seen it in that scenario here. And then let's do the last one here. So practical training experience will yield a project for a particular course that is required by a student's degree or program. So here we're going to the course, right? So there's a specific course that you're taking, and that course requires you to be working on a project that will take you outside of campus. The only way for you to complete that project is to be doing work off campus. And so the explanation here, students enroll in a course that is required by their program in order to graduate, okay? So you need it, it's required for your degree, and now that course is requiring to be off campus for X amount of time, maybe completing a project. Think of an artist working on a mural off campus or something like that, like an artist or a performers student can do that. So the example here, a student is enroll in a course that requires a final project as part of the final grade. The goals, learning objectives of the final project can be achieved directly through the responsibilities, duties of a position off campus that a student has been offered in their field of study. So this is really a narrow view of CPT, right? It's directly not just related to the degree, but it's required for a course. So if you're in that space and you have questions, we definitely want to have a conversation about this. We don't see this often, but once in a while it'll show up. And then, this is my slide. I think it is. So this is kind of a review of looking ahead. Paul went over the requirements for the ELC. So once the ELC approves all the needed information from the employer and you, because remember there has to be a cooperative agreement, the ELC will send a request to ISSS to create work authorization CPT. Keywords here is work authorization. Do not be out in the world without the proper work authorization. ISS will email you CPT student data entry form. This is all through my ISSS. I'm sure some of you have seen this. You may need to add an academic department advisor to confirm graduation date and completions. Please pay attention to this because do not put my name or Paul's name because we're gonna be like, nope, that's not us. And that just slows down the process because ISSS might not catch that right away. So if we have to confirm your graduation, right? If you're, for example, graduating in May of next semester, we want to confirm that indeed you are completing. So we create the appropriate document for you. Once you do that, ISS will process the work authorization on the CPT within 10 business days. And this point 4 here is if you do not have a social security number, these are kind of the steps you want to take to get that, because a lot of employers will require you to have one. You can take a screenshot of this. You can come to the office and we can go over this as well. It's on our website, okay?
All right, I'll jump back in real quick, Maria. Thank you for that information. That's super helpful. You want to know who your internship advisor is in the Experiential Learning Center. There are 4 of us on the team. I work with graduate students in the business school, as well as science and math majors in CLAS. Doug Weaver, who joined us first of the year, works with all undergrad business as well as psychology majors in CLAS. Chloe DeCuro, our newest internship advisor, is working with all students in the College of Engineering, Design, and Computing, as well as the liberal arts majors in CLAS. And finally, Lauren Stewart, who's been here the longest other than me, works with all students in the College of Arts and Media, College of Architecture Planning, and the School of Public Affairs. And if you're ever uncertain about who your internship advisor is, you're always welcome to contact the ELC. Contact Links Connect, and they can help you with that information. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Let me do that real quick.